I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Let somebody know that we're going live right now with the Conversation with Al McFarlane. Fridays, we call it the Healing Circle, and generally I'm joined by my co-host and partner, Dr. Ravada Garrett Akansanya. She is healing and recovering from some things she's working through. I told her that she and I are both getting fine-tuned. I say that to acknowledge that yesterday I started my first treatment for colon cancer, and I'm using radiation therapy at Minneapolis Radiation Oncology, following diagnosis and management um, of the prostate cancer diagnosis at Mayo 10 years ago. And at that time, the plan was active monitoring, active watching, and that's what we did. And then in the past quarter, we noticed some change, and that required a relook, a revisit, rethinking. And out of it came a choice. The choice for me was radiation therapy. A few steps from that point to here to prepare for it, but I'm not anxious, but glad to say that I have been able to collaborate with my doctors and come up on a plan that I think is the right plan for me, and that includes radiation therapy. So I'll be doing a month, I think 20 sessions, started yesterday, today, and then all day next week. Each day next week, it's like 15 minutes per session of radiation, and then the following week, 5 days, following 5 days, and the 3 days the last week, 20 days, 20 sessions altogether. And my intention is to talk about it, to blog about it, to write about it. I have a gift, and the gift is that I am a communicator. I'm able to look at, to understand, and talk about, write about, share information about things that I watch, that I look at, and that I experience. And I think there's value in a communicator like Al McFarlane telling the story in real time. So that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm glad to say this right now, that, like me, Dr. B, I told her I regard this process as simply a process of fine tuning. I'm getting better and better and better. So I'm happy for the science, happy for the medicine, happy for the professions, the technology, and happy to have a mind that says, you know what, don't guess, go see somebody. And that's what I do. And I also say that, Dr. B, speaking of her, I tell people that I serve on the board of directors of the African American Child Wellness Institute, which Dr. B founded and leads. And as often as I can, I mention that not only am I a board member of the Child Wellness Institute, secondly, the Institute is an advertiser in my newspaper. If you look at Insight News every week, you'll see an ad about the African American Child Wellness Institute, one, sometimes two, promoting and trying to educate people about the value of therapy services that we deserve and that we need, and healing that we have available, but we have to make ourselves aware and engage. So I say that not only am I a board member volunteer, but she's also a customer of Insight News. And then finally, I tell people, and it's all in the spirit of transparency, that I'm also a customer of her company, her psychological services company. It's called Breakins. And it's a team of therapists who provide therapy for men, women, families, children. And I have been a customer at Breakins for several years now. I tell you, that's one of the best decisions I've made, and that is to seek therapy just to help me work out me, to help me think about who I am. What am I trying to do? What am I trying to be and become? What have I been? And where have I come from? And how that all equates to a plan, an intention, and a possibility of being the best me that I can be. And I am always anxious to talk about this because I think that's something that Black men in particular, but Black people in general, have hesitation that kind of is founded in our skepticism about the medical profession. But despite what has happened in the past, there's a need to look at the present and the future and understand that we have, because of our experiences, begun to develop our own experts and our own expertise and our own knowledge that not only captures the best of Western thought and Western practices, but also remembers native or indigenous or alternative methods of approaching health and healing, of approaching being, of approaching how we analyze existence itself, how we pull together the world and navigate through it on a second by second, day by day basis. And this nods to us understanding our innate value, the centrality of our lives in the existence of human beings. And it validates our humanity and allows us to move with a certain power that absent that we feel like we're being pushed and shoved and used, abused, and discarded by systems and processes. This is a way for us to take the proper and sovereign control of our existence. It's about knowing yourself. And so therapy for me, for Al McFarlane, has been a practice of finding out how I understand what it means to be the best human being I can be, to examine steps and missteps, fears, joy, to see if I'm in balance or tilted this way too much or that way too much. All of that is the process that I experience with my therapist on a weekly basis. And I say this to simply encourage other Black men in particular. I'm 76 years old. I came to this late in 74, 75 years old. But if I knew then what I knew now, I'd have been engaged in employing the talent of professional therapy and other professionals in our community to help create this fuel to move my own reality and therefore that of those connected with me forward at the best pace, at a reasonable pace, at a responsible pace, and hopefully at a pace that also reflected whatever success meant to us and means to us individually and as a community. Well, I could go on and on and on, but this is a wonderful prelude to talk to you about my guest. My guest is Anissa Keys. Anissa Keys is the founder and owner of Arubah, and it's a new practice, a new business that seeks to guide individuals and families into a space of healing, and specifically to provide support to people that are least likely to receive the services. So that takes me right back to how all of us African American people generally have been resistant to many elements of the healing arts because we just felt like institutions treated us differently and didn't really serve our interests. They examined us and they experimented on us, but did they have our lives and our spirits and our souls at the center of their work on us? And that's a question. Well, Anissa says she believes that through relationship and with love, people can be fully restored after any challenges they are met with in life. She loves spending time, she says, with her 5 children. She's very involved in church activities, enjoys reading. She's completed her Master's of Arts in Marriage and Family Therapy from St. Mary's University here in Minnesota. And she is approved with the Minnesota licensing boards to supervise those seeking licensure as an LPC or LPCC. Dear sister, so good to meet you. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Mr. McFarlane. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to talk today about mental health. It's like my favorite one of my favorite topics to talk about, especially amongst our people. It's just really important work.
Well, let me start by having you react to what I said. Just as I'm talking, I'm sure I could see your facial expressions and what came across to you, and sort of work with me on my understanding. I'm saying it's important for Black people to learn up, listen up, and do, to make a move, to be intentional in understanding how we can improve by engaging resources like Arubah. So what do you think?
Absolutely. And even to back up a little bit before that, just really appreciative of you even just really normalizing, right? The need and the desire and the support that comes from mental health services by utilizing your own life as like this transparent sort of like narrative of saying, hey, I do this, right? And it speaks to your success. It speaks to who you become. It speaks to your continued fine tuning that you've taken on, that it's important work. And so, so just grateful for you setting that example and setting that bar. That's amazing, especially as a Black man in this era, in this day and age. Just in general, what I found, right, is that for services, especially for people that are communities, oppressed communities, people of color, impoverished communities, that typically what happens is it's just not a priority for us. It ends up becoming more important to feed our families, to think about housing, to think vocationally about being able to make it out of our current situation. And so then what ends up happening, and it gets put to the backdrop. And there's really not an understanding of how foundational it is to who you become. Or what life you create for yourself. And so people don't realize that at the core of housing, at the core of health is mental health. At the core of some of those challenges and issues that we are regularly thinking we're responding to in crisis, really underneath all of that is our mental stability. And oftentimes, because our emotional regulation is not necessarily always present, we can't show up in this world the way that we need to. And so it's just really sort of a foundational tool. When you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they talks about sort of like food and water as some of those basic needs, but like right above that is like emotional health, right? Acceptance, belonging, feeling somewhere where you can be seen and heard. And therapeutic support provides that for people that are not necessarily getting it in other areas of our life. And to be honest, especially for Black and brown bodies, we're in a country where we're not always seen or heard. That we are not always understood, or our challenges are not always met with support. And so having a safe space to be able to go to is crucial for our healing and for our continued well-being.
How did you decide to take on a career in therapy? What made you move into this field of study and work?
Yeah. So my mom is from Lake Providence, Louisiana, and she migrated here during the Great Migration. My father is from Columbus, Ohio. And it was really my father who, at 18, 19 years old, came here to Minnesota to play football and then got into some trouble and got kicked out, who then got on drugs pretty early in his life and suffered and struggled with addiction throughout my entire childhood. And kind of led me and some of my siblings also to struggle with that. But before that happened, he had a massive heart attack. He died actually at the Northside YMCA, right on the top floor. And every valve to his body, every valve leaving his heart, every valve coming in, pumping blood, shut down. He had used cocaine up until that point. He was in fact what they call a functional user or a functional addict. However, we've grown to understand that term is you're not really functioning, right? You're just merely getting by, you're surviving, you're staying above water, you're breathing, you're here, but you're not really living. And so he lived his life until he had that massive heart attack. And when we lost him, and I was able to think back and be able to research a little bit with my grandmother around like what some of his challenges and struggles were as a Black man, support and reaching out would have never been something he would have thought to do. And I realized at that time, not only did I want to be a therapist, but I wanted to be one that brought services to where people were at. The field of psychology especially has really created this bubble of sort of like what support is supposed to look like, right? And you see it on TV. You're in a fancy chair. The therapist is sort of, in a nice chair. You're leaned back on a sofa. It's just not the reality of how people really heal and support really happens. Especially not in our community. Right. And so I was like, I want to go to where people are at. And so then I ended up partnering with agencies, folks that were struggling with addiction. We would go to the CD community centers. We would go to those addiction spaces. We would go to and partner with Better Futures of Minnesota, Men Leaving Incarceration. I began to partner with schools that had high rates of free and reduced lunch, transient living facilities, right? Because those folks were not going to make it into an office space similar to my father. They were just people that were not, they were just thinking about, let me just get by, and didn't even know that another life existed for them. So that's what drove me into the field. And that's what drove me to my target population.
Let's talk more about your dad, if you don't mind. Thank you for sharing that. So he was at the YMCA on Broadway?
Yeah, absolutely.
On a treadmill? Treadmill? He was on a treadmill?
Yeah, so he was riding his bike. And actually there was a firefighter that was there. I won't mention his name, but he was actually in the space as well. Who's a local popular firefighter, who my father then grabbed his heart and stepped off the treadmill. So was having heart pain, and then got back on and continued.
What's your dad's name?
Roy Keys.
Roy Keys. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So, and so after he sort of like passed out, it's a pretty intense story for me, especially. So I learned later that he would be laid out and they would try to resuscitate him. When my older sister called me, she kind of said, "Dad is having an episode. You need to get to the Y," which I understand now that was language that the staff used to not alarm us, so that we wouldn't, get in a car accident to show up, right? But still, I could hear sort of some discomfort in her voice, right? Which still alarmed me, right? Like, what do you mean an episode? So I raced up to the YMCA. I had a 2-year-old daughter at that time. And when I came through the glass doors of the Y, I could hear my mom screaming, "Lord have mercy." And I did not even understand what those words meant until that day. Lord have mercy.
Have mercy. Oh.
Yes. And in everybody's face you could feel, because my dad had gone there for years. I grew up in North Minneapolis, grew up going to the YMCA. And so people knew something was going on with him and didn't know what. But the paramedics had came in. And so I could walk in, I could see everybody's faces just like completely in shock and looking at me with this heart of like, pain. So I walk up the stairs to where they were at that time working on him in the back area. And then they just come out. And of course, paramedics, they see people pass on a daily basis, maybe. My voice is quivering here a little bit. So they just kind of walked out and was like, "I wouldn't go in there if I were you." And I had to see him. My dad, my hero. He was even despite the fact that, living with an addict, of course, came with a lot of other trauma and challenges, but I had to see him. And so I went back there and I remember his stomach was distended from trying to push all the air. But of course, the air needs to circulate. And if he's not breathing, then the air is like stuck in his abdomen. And I remember at that time, I remember kissing him on his forehead. And vowing that I would do it differently. And one of the challenges, Mr. McFarlane, which is interesting, is that I ended up struggling with addiction from that age to like several years, and even came close to losing my clinical license about 10 years ago. So Arubah is not a new practice. We've been in business for about 11 years, so we're pretty established. We have 4 different locations. So I'll talk about that a little later. But so I went through a trial too of almost losing my clinical license because of my challenges with alcoholism. And then I have some siblings that also had their personal challenges. So so I know and I understand personally the importance of this work. And it has impacted me, like the intersection of like my own challenges around like me coming into a space of healing and then helping other people heal has really been like it's been spearheaded, I feel like, by my father's death, but then also just in general by my own challenges as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Now I'm here about to cry.
Yeah.
Listening to you, but it's a good cry. It's a cleansing cry. Yeah. Because what I'm crying about and feeling is how common is the story that you're telling, and how common is the story that I'm telling, and how horrible it is that we did not have adequate resources, adequate healing resources in the community, or awareness, and that we recoiled collectively at the thought of mental health
Yeah.
practitioners because we were jaded by this idea of I don't want to be seen
Yeah.
as weak or deficient,
Yeah.
and Lord knows I don't want to be seen as crazy, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so, who wants to be cray cray? And you probably heard it called like that, right? And so we walk around embracing and hiding in our
Yeah.
own minds our pain, but the
Mhm.
world sees us pained
Yeah.
because the pain is not
Yeah.
really, you said, functional. It's not
Absolutely.
functional.
It's not really. It's
And
not.
people see you dysfunctioned,
Yeah. They
uh,
see it.
but you think you're functioning. You think that's the way to label yourself so that you can keep pressing every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
two things have to happen. You have to admire the people that do keep pressing.
Mhm.
You have to also lament the fact that we walk with this pain
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
don't find. And so I thank you for having the experiences that guide you in wanting to be and to extend the capacity for healing and health for
Yeah.
those people that are marginalized,
Absolutely.
underserved. So, I said new practice, but I think I said that because you've opened a new facility.
I did.
You're about, you're about to open, and it's open now or about to open.
We're about to open soon. Yep. Yep.
And so
Within the
that's
next
what
like 4 weeks. Yeah.
I've been watching your progress reports from time to time. You send the notice out, and so that's why I reached out to you. I said this is important.
Yes.
Let's get her on to talk about this new clinic and her
Yes.
history. So that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
And again, thank you so much for being here. And my objective, Anissa Keys, is to promote you and promote your work, promote your facilities.
Yes.
So don't let this hour pass without letting people know where you are in all of your locations, how they get there,
I
and
will.
how
Can I do that
important
now?
it is. Let's start right now. Let's
Good. Good. I want to plug really quick though. My mom, who is my heart, and she's an older mama. She had me at an older age, but she's still like, I tell her I do therapy, and that's psychology stuff. I'm not crazy, So she's still.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Mom, no, really, this stuff works. Like I'm helping people. Like I literally have a whole job in a business because it's a necessary. I don't believe in that stuff. That's So she has other words for that from the South. So yes, that's still a real thing. I'm glad we've progressed a little bit beyond that. So so grateful for that. So Arubah has been around for 11 years. By trade, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed independent clinical social worker. But I'm also a bodywork provider as well. So that was a huge part of my healing, yoga. So we also offer all sorts of different other healing modality practices, especially in our healing center location. So our healing center location, which was really created to provide an integration of services, is in North Minneapolis on 52nd and Bryan Avenue North. We also have like a community space that can be rented, but then in those spaces, we'll have things like community acupuncture, healing touch, root medicine, biofeedback. All of our therapists are trauma informed, are culturally relevant and competent therapists, which is really, really important. Arubah actually started in Brooklyn Center. So we still have a space in our Brooklyn Center office. And then we went to St. Paul. So we have space in St. Paul. And then our final location, which will be the Northside Epicenter, which is actually a Black business ecosystem. So we won't be the only business in that space, which we're really excited about. The Northside Epicenter is actually rooted in a space of not just helping individuals to sort of become healed, but also actually the community, right? And so we're trying to create a multitude of safe spaces for especially Black folks to feel reflected in, to feel seen and heard, for you to know that like we were thinking about you in the background, we were thinking about us in the background is really important. So you'll come into that space seeing reflections of yourself, of your children, of your grandmother. You'll see titles and lists of things that will remind you of old markers from our historic innovation and ingenuity, which is really beautiful. And so again, we'll have therapists there that will be able to see clients. That will not be an integrated space. That will just mainly be our headquarters office. So we will have an amazing internship program there, specifically for graduate students that are moving into pre-licensure. And so we'll be able to follow them all the way to post-licensure. So really excited about all of the things that Arubah is doing.
And so let's talk
Oh,
about.
I'm sorry. Can I do the main phone number?
Sure, sure,
Sorry.
sure.
If
And
you are
web,
needing
web
support, yes.
web address and
I'm
email.
sorry. Okay, got it. Yes. Needing support. Main line is 612-284-8115. And you can reach somebody for intake. Arubah, the website address is www.arubahemotionalhealth.com. The website is shown here. You can look us up. But if you just type ARUBAH, you'll be able to find us. So,
What does Aruba mean?
Arubah means restoration to sound health. It is actually a Hebrew word. I am a believer. I love Jesus, and so this is. It was Hebrew word. The Hebrew language is like a love language for me, and so it's really important to have that. And so it means restoration to sound health. And one of my beliefs is that not only that people will be restored or that people can be restored to sort of like where they were or where we hope for them to be, but like where God has called them to be. I feel like a lot of folks in general are maybe functioning below where they have the ability to function. I feel like most parts we don't fulfill our potential, and mainly because of some of the challenges that we talked about earlier. But then I think also because we just don't believe that there's something better or more. And so this is really a space to be restored and to like where you are really brought to a space where God wants you to be.
And our lack of belief, does that reflect something that's internal, or does it reflect something that's external? Or is it both? What do I mean? Is it simply that the human being grows up feeling inadequate and insufficient, or does he or she learn that sense of inadequacy, of insufficiency, of disconnectedness through interactions with family, friend, and people outside the family? And is that or is that a condition that arises out of structural positioning of certain elements of the community? You use the language that you are supporting people least likely to receive services, people that are marginalized. I add to that, my motivation has always been Afrocentric, dealing with the health and the vision and the sovereignty of African people. I call us Africans in the New World Africans, but I pay homage to the beginning as I see it anyway. Some people don't, and I respect that, I understand it. And so, but in my analysis, I always point out, I critique and I challenge the societal structure, the social structure that has organized around the extraction of our humanity and the extraction of the minerals and resources of Mother Earth as well, all to the detriment of ordinary people and for the gain of the few, the minority that have a need to hoard power.
Yeah.
And hoarding is one of their power tools.
Yeah.
That's a lot. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I went on a tour just recently with the Center for Economic Inclusion, which was an amazing opportunity. They sponsored the tour, and we go down to Selma. We stay in Montgomery, and we go to the Peace Museum. We learn about Bloody Sunday and the boycotts, and we go to the Lynching Museum, and you can see from the moment that you step foot into the space, psychologically the impacts. And I could, especially as a therapist, right, the impacts through generations, but not even through generations, but like into the present stage area, right, like of where we live and breathe now. Of like seeing young people being tried as adults, young Black boys, 13 and 14 years old, being tried as adults, writing letters from prison at 25 and 35 years old, begging to be released, and not just tried as adults and found guilty, but then like sentenced to life. Right. So making a decision at 13 or 14 years old for your whole entire life to be stripped from you, like it speaks to like what you're referring to, the systems that have continued to strip away the very nature and humanness of like who we are as Black people, like the attempts. I don't want to say that they are successful. So for sure that is an everyday relevant challenge. But then there's also studies that have shown, and there was one from the University of Minnesota where she actually studied impoverished Black children.
Mhm.
And she talked about how when she did the scatter plot to find out, where these kids were functioning at educationally, academically, their health, whatever their abilities were, they were all over the place. And oftentimes, same story, right? It was a lot of single parents. It was a lot of all were impoverished. Some fathers, mothers were incarcerated. Some were in shelter. Some were in their own homes, right? So it was all a similar background. But what she found is the outcomes were all totally different, though. So what we do know is that absolutely there are systems in place, but there are also internal skills that we have, internal resources and assets that are innate to us that we were just blessed with, right? There are some things that you got, Mr. McFarlane, that like some folks just didn't, and right, and it's not fair, and it's just the way it is, right? And they're blessings that make you more resilient, more adaptable, more flexible, more good looking, right? That make things easier in life for you, or might make things like more likely for you to be successful. That doesn't mean that there are these systemic powers that are also in play that impact that, but you can see where like some folks who may not have gotten the same intellectual value, or they may not have gotten the same ability to overcome the internal sort of asset of being able to like have a certain perspective that may be like positive or optimistic. Those are all things that we are born with, right? That that's our genetic makeup. Now we know about epigenetics that has gotten shifted over the years from generations of trauma. However, we still know there is a difference in who we are made up to be internally. And then that sort of get impacted as well by like the systems that are at play. So it's both, right? It's both. There are some things that I have been blessed with that they are that's not from the external world, right? There are external resources that I also have, but there are things that I've been given that I don't get to take credit for. Neither does my parents, right? Like it's just the way that the genes and the DNA sort of came together.
Sure.
I do not know. I don't have a theory on which one is more impactful. What I do know is that even with the limited abilities or the inabilities to have sort of those innate sort of resources that people might have, that everybody has potential, right? That within every boy, there's a man, right? But then every man, there's the ability to have a family. With every family, there's the ability for there to be a community. So the potential is always still there. It may not reach the same heights, but it's still there. And so then we honor every single person that we're able to come into contact with, and we're able to move into a better space than where they are at. And so I'm not sure if it matters, but I know it's important either way. And I'm not sure which one is more important to focus on. So,
well, thank you for that. I guess I'll react by saying I totally agree, and I think that the second is more important. That in the individual, and that's no matter what the oppression or even the opportunity might be. There's something within the human that is important. So I've written, Anissa, a piece called "The Gift." And the gift is about recognizing that what you just said, I have gifts. There's something that I was born with, right? And the beauty is to be lucky enough to recognize that you have a gift.
Absolutely.
And then if you recognize that happens on a couple of levels. One, the idea of a gift to somebody, like the creator gave you something, but also the gift is that you exist. That you exist as a gift,
still
right?
Here. Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And so then I tell people at the end of my speech on the topic that the mission is to recognize and speak to the gift in each other. The presumption, therefore, is that each of us is endowed by creation itself and the creator with a gift that is unique and valuable, and it's ours. And my challenge to me and to others is when I meet other human beings, other humans, is to speak to the gift, address the gift. Start there. Start with the gift. The presumption is that you got everything you need. And I'm speaking to that power in you and that strength in you. And I know that all of us have these challenges, both internal doubts, and also we're all dealing with the external, the social structure that we know colludes to deny and destroy, to suppress.
Right.
but so what?
Right.
And it rains every day
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well, right?
Right. Right.
So that can never be a reason that we can't become and continue to evolve into our best selves. But we need help. We need training. And I think the discovery that you as therapists are able to deliver to us is the awareness of what we have and who we have and what our best self may show up as and can show up as. And that's something for every human being, I think. Am I wrong in that assessment?
No, I think that's wonderful. First of all, I love that language, the gift. Can I take that, or did you?
Please, oh, please.
I love that. I love that language.
I'll
Yeah.
send you the article. That's kind of like what guides me.
Yes.
Is number one, recognizing and being able to say that I have a gift. Number one, because when I first thought about it, I thought if I said that, people are going to think I'm trying to be somebody.
Right.
I'm thinking too much of myself. But over the years, I finally settled in and became at peace with knowing, with the knowledge that I am gifted.
Absolutely.
I am.
Absolutely.
I have a gift. It's a gift, and it's great. And I don't have to hide it.
No.
I don't have to be embarrassed about it. And actually, it requires that I talk about it because the talking is an activating tool in other people. So my mission has to be to locate that gift and turn it, twist it, and open it up. So that now is motivated, and it goes in a process of motivating, opening awareness of gifts in others. That's what I think.
It catches fire. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I love that. Yeah. You know why that's so important is because I don't think that people understand really like the significance of therapy or even just what is even happening. It's not like a complicated process. Because what's really happening is that we are saying to the person that is sitting across from us, right? There is something in you, right, that drove you to this space because you know that your value in what you want to be is like greater or bigger than where you're at right now. Right. And then as a therapist, all we're doing is honoring that and walking alongside that, right? Through love, through relationship, through connection, through collaboration. That's it. I think people are worried that they're going to come in and like a therapist is going to do some mumbo jumbo and play with their head. And that's not the process. The process is like that you get seen and heard, right? That you get identified as somebody that bears a gift that's worth nurturing and loving on and making sure that the rest of the world sees. And then like helping that person get to the space where they're ready to show it. And so that's wonderful language because I try to simplify the process. When I was working at Better Futures of Minnesota, which was men leaving incarceration, and we know the recidivism rate is ridiculous. And it's particularly ridiculous if you're a Black man and you're leaving prison and you're going back to where your home is and it's in the same spot that you got picked up from in the first place, and these are the friends that you have and this is the space that you're in, and then there's no other alternatives because nobody's going to give you a job because now you have a record and you can't vote and you have no right, you know what I mean? Like it's a setup for you to return back to what you know, right? And so when I was working with some of these men, the biggest impact was them being seen. That's it, right? Just knowing that like they are somebody was like, and that just seems like that seems like a simple tool. But if you think about, especially for Black people who are walking around regularly, feeling invisible, feeling like they don't matter, feeling like there's no value, there's no worth, it's wonderful to come into a space for somebody to say to you, I see you. I see you with all your great personality and attitude and, right? Like I see you, I hear you. I hear your brilliantness. I hear the ingenuity. I hear your Black genius. I hear it all. That shifts, right? Even just if one or two people can see that. So that's why therapy ends up really being a space to me as I watch people blossom in it. If I can get them into the office, so that's the other piece. I got to get them here first, and then I can just love on them enough to kind of say, we're going to walk this thing out together. What I vow, Mr. McFarlane, is that I won't allow, not on my watch, not in my lifetime, to come into contact and let another person filled with gifts like my father go to the right. I feel like the richest place is the graveyard. And unfortunately, it holds a lot of our people. And there's so much potential, so many gifts that did not come to fruition because of things, other extenuating circumstances that I feel like could have been prevented. And so that is my role whenever I come into contact with anybody seeking support.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. My guest is Anissa Keys. She's the founder and owner of Arubah. We'll continue the conversation in a minute. First of all, thanks to Sister Cameron, who watches the show every day and applauds your comments, Anissa. And I want to remind everybody else that's listening, we're streaming this live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Insight News, YouTube, on National Newspaper Publishers Association YouTube, and on Insight News Twitter. And so a lot of ways to reach people. And wherever you are, thank you for connecting. We want you to help us grow this platform, this engagement, this connection in our community. We've crossed, and we're monitoring in particular the YouTube Insight News. That's the bean counter for us. Though we are reaching people on a half a dozen platforms, we're trying to watch Insight News YouTube. So no matter what platform you're on, take a minute to go to Insight News or YouTube Insight News and subscribe, like, and share. We've just crossed over 600 subscribers. Our goal, short-term goal, is 1,000. And I'm inviting each and every one of those listening and anybody in the network. In fact, these interviews will be available. They can be shared anytime. And if you find this conversation valuable, interesting, touching your family, your experience, we want you to share the conversation. We want you to be a part of it. You can comment on the comment section, give us a call at Insight News, drop us an email, give Anissa a call or drop her an email. We want to engage you. We're going to come back and talk more about the business of healing with Anissa Keys. We'll come back after this message. If you've not done so, consider getting vaccinated against the COVID-19 virus. At vaccine.gov, enter your zip code, your preferred vaccine type, and you get a map with locations eager to serve you. Getting vaccinated saves lives. Vaccine.gov can help you do your part. There we go. So COVID is still out there, and we have to pay attention to that. Also the flu, and I saw a show this morning about other highly transmissible contagion stomach flus. And so you got to pay attention, and you got to establish protocols that keep you safer and as safe as you can possibly be, and to keep you from being, a cause of somebody else's illness or, bad health. I said we want to talk about, the business of health, and what do you do? How are you able to sustain a company that allows you to serve people in general, but you've targeted people in the quote unquote lower economic status? How is that a business? How does that work? What's the business model?
Yeah, great question. So what we've done is we've just been really creative about partnering and collaboration. So we ensured that we were able to partner with agencies that were serving the clientele that we wanted to support, but did not have the means to be able to support them. So we would kind of go under contract with them, co-locate in those spaces, and then be able to see clients there on site. So we would provide all the billing for the clients and the scheduling. We would do all of our notes on site. And the collaboration would really be, hey, if you guys give us space, we'll show up and we'll do all the work. You just send clients our way. And so we were able to then reach a population we typically wouldn't reach. We were also able to support the providers that we were there on site with. So we did a lot of trainings, a lot of first aid, trauma first aid trainings, a lot of trainings on de-escalation. Oftentimes the staff were in spaces that they were regularly amongst each other. So we did a lot of group support as well. And we did a lot of healing circles as well. And so we just were creative about how we supported folks. So even through our healing circles, for example, indigenous practices, alternative medicines oftentimes are not reimbursed by insurance companies. So what we would do is we would have them teamed or joined together with a model that was reimbursed by insurance company in an effort to expose our clients to to another healing modality, we would partner them. So for example, we might talk about depression, which of course is within the realm of what insurance companies will reimburse and pay for. But then we would also couple it with community acupuncture. So that our people from the community could get exposed to another healing modality, or drumming, or just humming, right? Walking meditation. So some of those other services. So we were just really innovative about how we provided the services to ensure that our clients were able to access them. But the other biggest piece is, right, this is just an agency that I have found it will not necessarily be is profitable as a lot of other mental health practices. We'll never be out of business because unfortunately mental health and emotional health is so important and key, is that it's unfortunately we're not going in a direction where it's decreasing at a faster rate than how many people we can serve. So it will never be out of business, but also we just will never see clients where we will get full insurance payment from, where we will have out of pocket. We have moved into a direction of being able to do that, and have intentionally chose like to save space. We're a specialty clinic, meaning that we have a lot of amazing therapists that oftentimes are being asked for their services to be provided for people that are well-resourced. And we're not going to let those slots be taken by those folks. We're going to make sure we're serving the folks that are, again, least likely to get the services. So we're intentional in that. And so that kind of led me to a space of wanting to do more commercial building, which is the reason why I did the Healing Center and was a commercial developer in that space. And the reason why I created the Northside Epicenter, which is another space that Arubah is going to be in, but it's also a space that's filled with 15 different business owners. So some of it is that I've supplemented sort of my wealth building with commercial development in an effort to make sure that I sustain as an individual, but my company sustains seeing the clients we want to serve.
And you've bought and built your own buildings?
Yeah, so I rehab buildings that are not necessarily a current asset to the community, especially North Minneapolis, of course, where I'm born and raised. And so in 52nd Bryant, it was an old building where there was an old dental clinic at one time, a pretty successful clinic, but it kind of gotten just torn down and was a space that kids sort of graffitied, and a lot of stuff that was not good for the community. So we came into this space, and now we have 12 offices, we have community providers, we have a lower level that's a community space. And then similar, the Northside Epicenter, which literally, Mr. McFarlane, while I was under contract to buy the building, a young man got shot and killed in the building. A building that was filled with recording studios, and so you walk through the door and you get hit with a high pretty quickly, and kind of inappropriate movement. There was a liquor store next door to it. It was dumping happening all the time. I mean, it took me probably about a year just to clear out the squatters and people, just because it was just that building for a very long time. So just not very well taken care of. When I purchased the building, we quickly lost all of those tenants after the shooting. And so it sort of began to plummet from there a little bit, but we have been building it up, building the space. Again, really, really intentional about who we were going to support and see, and really intentional about Black business owners being in that space for collaboration and cohesion around building up North Minneapolis.
Let me share one more phrase that I've used a lot. I'll share it with you. I remember growing up, and my grandma would say to me, boy, mind your business, mind your business. And what she meant in part, using the double entendre, was, the number one, don't be nosy. Number one, take care of what you're supposed to take care of. But also, we were in a church family. Our grandfather was a pastor, and the family was steeped in the church, and the church was our family business, right? And so, and mind your business, and your business is, you take this either way or both ways, but she meant it both ways. Take care of this business. And I transpose that to health. I say that, Anissa, our health is our business. And how we can say the same thing 4 or 5 different ways.
Yeah.
Right. And it means something a little different each time you say it. You say it. It's my business. Or so the point is, I want to keep saying that our health is our business.
That is.
We got to mind our business. And when I say that, I say, think about, like everybody else, we want to be able to take a cancer pill. when it's finally developed that prevents or cures cancer. But until that time, institutions like the Mayo Clinic mobilize billions of dollars, right, for practice, research, study, service, documentation, and they create a whole city enterprise, basically Rochester, Mayo, one and the same, right? And so what they're saying is our health is our business, and they are about the business of health. And I'm emphasizing business. Health is a profitable business.
It is.
It really is, and it should be. So the point is, we as a community have we walk as poster children for all of the documented disparities in health. We are under assault, in every arena, and health is one of those arenas that shows up. Stress and heart and liver and all the other things, mental health, etc. What if we can get a change of mind in our community, where our people say, you know what, our health is our business. This is our business. And the business that is involved with health in our community has got to be business we create, showing up as the solution and not just the problem. Right now, we are relegated to the problem side of that equation. We sick, we the problem, come here, here's your answer. But at some point in time, we need 40 or 50 Anissa Keys, right? Who show up on every block in our community as a healer, and doing the business of managing our health. And doing it with an intention of understanding revenue streams, wealth building associated with the business of health. I see that's what you're doing. Wouldn't it be great if we had 3,000 therapists who are Black serving the other 150,000 of us here in the marketplace?
Absolutely.
Particular peculiar knowledge of who we are, of our identity, of our history, our legacy, and of our aspirations. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing?
Absolutely. Yes, that would be wonderful. And I think that is beautiful. And with the Northside Epicenter, and again, this is not just to bring it back to this space, but this is important, right? Is because one of the important parts of me creating the space was the intentionality of bringing in service providers, bringing in business owners that were not only Black, that was just one piece of it, but also served or filled a gap that was needed in the community. So an asset that was specific to healing. So mental health is just one type of, right, like traditional talk therapy, is just one type of emotional healing. We also, as Black folks, need safe spaces to come into. That's healing, right? We need safe people to be able to do business with, people that look like us. That's healing, right? Like when you start being able to like not doubt another business owner because they look like you, right? Because you're like, I don't know how you do, right? I mean, how many of us have that trauma, right? Which is really just self-hatred, internalized racism, what we've been taught to learn, right? That's healing. And so when I think about Heal Restaurant, right, which is a plant-based restaurant in North Minneapolis, the first in North Minneapolis, that is in the Northside Epicenter, that literally when you go in, you not only feel the presence of Black culture, you also feel the need to heal, right? It's called Heal for that reason, that like you're getting fed food that is not just more oily or greasy or fried, right? But that is physically good for you. That's another component of healing. There's an apothecary that's going to be in the Northside Epicenter. Again, natural healing modalities. I think she's not a certified root medicine doctor, right? But has been doing the work for the last 15 years, has been using natural herbs, which historically and culturally is indigenous to who we are, to be able to bring, again, not only building wealth, like you said, Mr. McFarlane, but also, right? And not only minding the business that pays her, but also creating the opportunity to be able to heal a plethora of people while being able to not only survive but to thrive. And so I think that we can twist that to not just include like business practices that include like overt healing modalities or like medicine or health. But there's also just ways in which we can engage and be in space and create spaces for us to have like this continuum of healing. that I like to go into spaces that are reflective of me. That is healing for me. Even if I never go into a therapy office, there is a proponent of that feels safe and comforting, and thus creates an opportunity for me to continue to be nurtured and healed. And so I think we need to create more of those. And so it doesn't have to be more therapists. So I'm just letting everybody know here, we don't have to have more therapists. We just need more Black bodies that are taking up space, using their leverage to create safe space for us. That is my whole objective.
Awesome. Let's remind people how to reach and connect and use your services and those that you're associated with.
Absolutely. So Arubah Emotional Health Services, it's www.arubahemotionalhealth.com. The phone number is 612-284-8115. You just ask for intake. Very important, especially in this field, we have Black therapists, we have therapists of color, which is a very high need right now. Oftentimes Black therapists have wait lists. We have newer therapists that are coming in. We have a great internship program. So if you are seeking to become a therapist, if you want to volunteer time, if you want to learn more about mental health field in general, please reach out. In addition to that, we have the Healing Center, which is an amazing space that Arubah is in, but we also have a community space in the lower level for people to be able to access and be able to utilize for birthday parties, for workshops, for trainings, whatever the community needs. Arubah is there, and the Healing Center is there to provide that support. And then we have the Northside Epicenter, which is a brand new project we are excited about. We have some amazing business owners that are in there now. We have Amina's hair braiding. We have healthy, helpful. I'm going to get this wrong. It's a long name. Healthy, Helpful Insight Healthcare Institute. She trains CNAs, MAs, nursing assistants. She does first aid training. She's an amazing African-American nurse who has been doing this work for quite a while. She has actual school in the Northside Epicenter. Awesome. In addition, we have Heal, plant-based restaurant. We have the apothecary coming. We have a salon. We'll have Arubah there. And there'll be a lot of other businesses. Please be on the lookout. This summer, we're going to have a summer fest. We'll have a gospel concert. We're going to have a Black authors sort of expo. And then we're going to have a carnival for kids. So we'll be doing all of that in the amazing parking lot right next to the Northside Epicenter. So just be tuned. Again, the Northside Epicenter, you can be found on Facebook. It sounds like something's going on with the website. So look us up on Facebook for sure. And you can always follow me at www.anissakeys.com. I have my own website as well. It tells a lot about the work that I'm doing, all of my projects. So you can always reach out to me there as well.
Awesome. Let me ask you about, you talked about your dad and you mentioned your mom. Yeah. Have you done any genealogy work? What's your lineage? And what does lineage mean to you?
I haven't done any. I've been curious about it. My mom currently is going through a stage and a spell of dementia, and so as she is like she's mixing up her stories. So the more she shares with us, the more fascinated we become. But I just haven't had the time yet to look back at it. It is very important. I just haven't had the time yet to be ready to look back at that. What about you? Have you been able to do
I've done a lot. And my thing is that from my mother's side, Yoruba, Nigeria, 99%. So when you add my mother and my dad, the percentage of Yoruba is like about 60%.
Wow.
On my father's side, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and then into Europe. My father is Cuban-born Jamaican. And so the Jamaican, his parents trail off to the slave relationship with the Irish and Scotch that came to Jamaica, and so that's kind of my story. But it's a wonderful thing to learn.
I think you just inspired me to do it, and now I'm going to do it. So
you should.
Next time I have a conversation, I'll have an answer for you.
Yeah. Well, listen, I so enjoyed this time with you. I thank you so much for being here. I'm going to drive up and check out your buildings and your restaurants, and maybe we can figure out a way to help promote those businesses as a group in Insight News. My goal is to get us, and you hit it on the head, our people are skeptical of dealing with our people.
Yes.
It's a function of training.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go over a minute to tell the story. Stories about a Black woman who was in her mind, conscious, could be a black man, didn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
and wanted to get her kitchen painted or remodeled, and thought she'd go to the black pages and find somebody black, and she did. Guy comes out in a painter's, whites, a cap, handkerchief, and tools, gives her an estimate. I can do this job, call me. And so she says, thank you. And she says, I need at least 2 estimates. She calls somebody out of Yellow Pages. White guy shows up, same outfit and stuff. Traditional painter, craftsman, and a little bit higher. So she thought, I should do, my first impulse was to go black, but I really want to get this done. And I don't really know if this brother can do the work, but I better call this white guy up. So she calls the white guy up, signs the contract over the phone or whatever. And the guy says, I'll have a worker out there Monday. So Monday, 9 o'clock, black guy shows up to do the work.
Wow.
And she said, lady, I told you I could do the job.
Aww.
So the white guy hired him to do it.
Aww.
But she had doubt.
Wow.
And she questioned whether her using a black business would give her the same results that she felt comfortable by going through somebody white. So that's a problem. That's a mental health issue.
Absolutely.
Anissa, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me, Mr. McFarlane.
All right. Take care. And take this video and share it to all of you.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.